Hey guys, I wanted to demonstrate one way that you can set up radios in the Kiowa Warrior. This is what I've found works for me. There's a couple different ways you can do it. This way uses the commands inside of DCS rather than the radio key bindings in SRS. So if you look at my SRS settings here and you look at controls, there's basically nothing bound. I have some stuff for other aircraft with radios that aren't modeled completely, but for the most part nothing. So with that, we'll get into it. Starting out, getting the intercom working, we'll start in the pilot seat on the right here. So by default, you're going to notice that the intercom starts out at 0% volume. And so to fix that, what you're going to do is go to this panel over here, CSC panel, and you're going to raise the Vox control up to your desired volume. So it goes up to 93 there. And then you can also adjust the master volume on this far left knob here. So we've raised our volume for that. The next thing that you're going to want to do, depending on your setup, you could either just bind SRS to or ICS to a switch, such as the first D10 on your your cyclic trigger, which is where it's usually bound. However, due to control setups for me at least, it doesn't work properly at this time. It seems that because when you press down the second D10 trigger, it basically, the first D10 overrides it and you can't transmit on the actual radio. So the way I've solved that is going for hot mic, and this makes it a lot easier, especially if you're running in the left seat, you're controlling the MMS in combat. It's really difficult to press all these buttons while still transmitting with the trigger. So it kind of gives your hands a little bit more freedom, which I really like. And it's also a realistic feature in the aircraft as well for Vox on. So let's show how you set up Vox here so that it automatically will transmit on intercom and then turn off when you don't want it. So we go in here to settings, and intercom hot mic voice detection. Use voice detection Vox on intercom. So you're going to want that on. And then you're going to want to adjust these settings for your particular microphone to find a good balance so that it picks up when you're speaking and it doesn't pick up when you aren't speaking, if you're breathing or something, or you have loud stuff going on in the room that you're playing nearby. These settings might be different from mine, but this is what works for me. So let's do a quick check of this. So you'll see right now that I'm not getting transmit and receive. The final step, so we've turned up our volume, we've set up our Vox to be on in the SRS settings. Next we're going to go over here to this switch and we're just going to bring it over here to Vox on. And you'll see in Vox on mode or hot mic mode, either one, it doesn't matter. Now when I speak, it will pick up my transmissions on SRS and show that. Note that I've also disabled the click sound in SRS just because with people's different volumes, sometimes I turn up my SRS a lot higher and that click just kind of hurts my hearing. So currently I'm just going, no sound for the transmit, but you can see very clearly that it's transmitting here. Okay, next thing we're going to do in the radio. The radio requires two things. So we have this beautiful dial up here that basically, means that we're not going to really need this SRS one up to look at, because we have this one that's basically showing the same information. To select radios, you're going to have this arrow here that's pointing to which radio you have selected. So right now I have radio 1, 040.4 FM radio. So we can control which radios we are on via this radio select switch, which is on the collective in the actual Kiowa. So you see here I press buttons and it will change which radio it's on, both in SRS and DCS. The little asterisk next to it in the SRS menu showing which ones we're transmitting on. So we've got that set up, and if you wanted to see what that key binding is called, you can go adjust controls. I'm making sure I'm in the pilot side here. And then I'm going to make sure I get my, radio select switch. So we have FM1, UHF, VHF, and FM2. I've bound those each to a different position. This is great for a hat. So you can use that for, not even looking down for switching the radios, which is really useful for that pilot side. Okay, and then finally, the big button to actually transmit on said radio is you're going to go to Adjust Controls, and I'll just find it here by clicking the trigger. Yep. Push to talk radio, CSCP. Note that the VoIP buttons, they're probably listed somewhere else here. They don't have any effects. Some other modules use the VoIP as the means of transmission. Other things, if you wanted to do, you could bind Intercom in here as well, and that would work if you wanted to set Intercom on a button or a switch of some sort. Like I said, I don't use that because of the current settings and the overriding of the first stage trigger versus the second stage trigger. I thought it was also neat that they added in a foot switch here. So we could go here and click on our foot switch. Does that work? No. I guess you need a binding for it to actually work. But it does work. Yep, just to make sure you guys really saw that. Yep, you're going to want this one bound, CSCP, push to talk radio, bound up for what you're going to press when you're transmitting. So, holding down the transmit button, and you see right now, because we are selected on 225, that it's transmitting on 225.0 on the UHF radio here. And if I wanted to switch that, I would use my binding for the collective. Yep, so let's say I wanted to go on FM. Now I'm on FM, and now I'm transmitting on that radio with the same trigger. Okay, great. Now let's hop over to the CPG side. Okay, so for the CPG side, it's going to be similar for the ICS. You're going to want to turn up your volume here. Because I'm not actually in a different aircraft, it's not registering that. But just you'll be setting your volume up here so you have proper volume in SRS for ICS. So you actually here you'll go hot mic on or Vox on here, and that will allow you to transmit correctly. Radio selector, let's talk about that. Adjust controls. So we're going to go to Copilot here. And you see here, 1, 2, 3, and 4 Copilot radio select switch. You can bind each of these to select a different radio. Also, to do that manually, you could hit this dial here. They don't seem to be synced up with the bindings right now, but that's okay. So those 4 positions will be very useful to have bound. And then also we will have bound our push-to-talk radio the same way that we do in the other seat. Because I'm just flying single player right now, it doesn't really recognize that button, but it does recognize it perfectly when you're in multi-crew with somebody else, which is really a fantastic time in this helicopter, and I'd suggest you guys try it out. Yep, so we'll hop back over to the pilot seat now, just show a little bit about the volume controls, stuff like that, further in depth. The radios right now are at about 85%. As you see here, we can turn them up. It's kind of covered which radio you're on here, so you really have to look over. But you see radio number 4 is here. This radio doesn't appear to be, and radio 4 is not model. Radio 5 is up to full. This is radio 3, now at 100% volume. Radio 2, and then radio 1. And then if you wanted to mute a radio, for whatever reason, you just pull out the switch by clicking on it, and that will turn it off. So if you see 0% on a radio like that, and the volume's up, and it's in that up position. You've muted said radio, so if you had an issue with that, that's a way to troubleshoot it. Yeah, with that, that's just about everything I can think of how I have SRS set up in the Kiowa. So please let me know if you guys have any questions or anything you'd like me to clarify, or share how you set it up differently. There's a way to set up, profiles in SRS. I haven't used that yet. I prefer this method, just personally. But yeah, if you guys have it set up like that and you see any more positives or negatives to that style versus this, I'd love to hear about that, so we can all learn. So yeah, thanks for watching.